This weekend was Alumni and Hall of Fame weekend on the South Hill, so naturally the 10th-ranked Bombers put on a show. We have highlights from the game, and we're going to have Coach Dan Swanstrom in studio to break down all of Saturday's actions. Alyssa Spady has your Liberty League roundup, and as always, Fourth and Goal has a lot to debate. This is the Gridiron Report, and it starts right now. Welcome into the Gridiron Report. I'm your host, Matthias Wallman. Thanks for tuning in for everything Bombers football. We'll see in a bit if the Bombers moved up in the national rankings again, but for now we'll call them the 10th ranked Bombers. It's been a while since they were ranked this high. The last time they reached the top 10 was in 2006. Do you remember that year? I mean, the movies back then, Pirates of the Caribbean. You had things like Italy winning the World Cup, Super Bowl XL. It's been quite a while. I'm joined now, as always, by Coach Dan Swanstrom. Coach, thank you for stopping by. Just real quick, do you remember 2006? What were you doing back then?
2006 was my first year out of college, so I remember it very well.
For better or for worse?
No, it was good. I was at the University of Redlands. I was working there. In the spring, I was at my high school, so it was definitely an interesting time in your life when you're trying to figure out exactly what you're doing. But I was fortunate enough to know my sophomore year what my plans were, so.
It's been working out well so far. Let's go back to before this Buffalo State game. What was the biggest adjustment you saw going from St. Lawrence to Buffalo State that the team had to make?
It's not about adjustments. I think it was just we just had to be solid with our preparation. Coach and staff did a great job of putting a plan together, and the players going out and executing it. And I thought the details were pretty solid this week, and I think we can actually prepare a lot better. I thought the week before going into the other game, I thought the details were a little tighter. The focus was a little tighter, and you know, as much as you want to stay focused, Buff State presented some challenges in the sense that they're coming off a bye week, so they had 2 weeks to prepare for us. This was their first league game, so even though they hadn't had success, it was like a rebirth for them. And so we really felt like we're going to get a very good effort from that team, and I'm glad that message came through our team, and they did what they needed to do to win the game on Saturday.
So their first conference game, they're coming off the bye week. Let's see exactly what Buffalo State was able to do this Saturday for Hall of Fame weekend. Let's take a look at the action. So the Bombers deferred, and then on the first play, go for the onside kick. Second time, Bahamonde has done that successfully this season. Kyrie Brown, no problem there. On the first drive, Germanario on the right side. Easy QB sneak. A little help from Dante Garcia from the back. His third touchdown of the season. Then Germanario again is going to look for Andrew Vito. An absolute dime in the back of the end zone. 14-0 Bombers early. That's Vito's first touchdown since week one. And then, stop me if you heard this one before, give the ball to Isaiah DeHady. Let the Mack truck run. Touchdown number 1 on the day. Then Germanario again, time to throw. He finds Andrew Vito. That's number 2 for him. 28-7 already. The Bombers are running up the score. And then it doesn't matter if it's on the ground or through the air. Isaiah DeHady makes it into the end zone again for him. Touchdown number 2, 35-7. Bombers lead. Now Germanario, remind me if this is Germanario or Harry Houdini escaping pressure. He's going to find Mikey Anderson on the right side for a phenomenal catch. Toe tap on the side. They're going to call it a completion. And then Germanario to Gladney. The screen was a little high, but he climbs the ladder to get it. And the big man all the way down to Buffalo State territory. He's excited. How can you not be? And then Kendall Anderson, first rushing touchdown of the season. Bombers would come out with this one, 48-14 victory. And with a top 10 team losing, they are now ranked 9th in the nation. Coach, the field conditions may have not been super clean, but the offense was. 0 turnovers on the day. Was that a point of emphasis? And what did you guys do to prepare for that in the week?
I mean, not turning the ball over is always a point of emphasis. That doesn't change from right at this moment to Tuesday to last week. That's a 365 day, a year commitment to our program.
And with the field conditions a little messy. What did you guys do well to protect the ball, and does that change the play call at all with maybe a little more mud on the ground?
I mean, it's really a non-factor. I mean, there's things we do as a coaching staff with just slight adjustments, but it's very, very mild. And our players, we can play anywhere. Just put the ball down and we'll go execute and play anywhere.
And we saw that in the highlights. Something we didn't see in the highlights on 4th down, there's special teams coming out in some interesting sets and fake punts and going for on 4th down. Were you expecting that, and what adjustments did you make once you saw it?
Yeah, I mean, they've been pretty unique with their punt formations all year. They faked 3 punts against us yesterday, and we were fortunate to stop all 3. It was a great adjustments by that punt rush unit, coming out, finding out who the eligibles were, what they were trying to do. And even though it might not have been perfect and, the center, the snapper was technically eligible, they could have thrown passes to him. So it was very, very unique look. And, we got some smart, savvy players in this team, and they figured it out and they ran to the ball and stopped them. So those were huge plays. Those were like turnovers.
So over 100 rush yards on the day between Germinario, DeHady, and Kendall Anderson. Kendall Anderson might have been the person who was slated as the top running back, as the starter for this team, but it's been Isaiah DeHady with the majority of the carries. How do you determine game in and game out who's going to get the bulk of the carries? Is it a pregame decision or is it game flow?
No, best players play, and right now, Kendall's done a fantastic job for us and had a great game yesterday and was very productive. And Isaiah's just been more consistent at this point and has broken more tackles, and Kendall's going to have his moment, and he had his moment yesterday. He had his touchdown. So we have high expectations for Kendall. We have very high expectations for Isaiah. We have very high expectations for Dante Garcia. We've got very high expectations for A.J. Clifford and Dakota Cross and Chase Hebron. It's a very talented group.
All right, Coach, thank you so much for joining me. Best of luck this week. Our very own Casey Honigbaum had a chance to go to Jim Butterfield Stadium and got all the action from a jam-packed Saturday.
I'm Casey Honigbaum with the Gridiron Report. It was alumni weekend here at Ithaca College, and the Bombers did not disappoint, crushing Buffalo State 48-14. Running backs coach Gary Bucci was inducted into the Athletics Hall of Fame this weekend, and his offense accounted for 3 rushing touchdowns on the day en route to that large win. Joe Germinario was one of the stars of the game. I was able to catch up with him here today. Joe, strong first half, strong second half, 28 points in that first quarter. What was clicking?
Our guys work so hard during the week, and it's just easy just because the way our line play and how physical they played. Our skill guys are just great, You talk about Vito, Mikey Anderson, Cooney, Will. It's just, there's so many guys, and then, you put in Austin Hedgeland and Jarv. It's just, you got a lot of guys to throw to and a lot of options.
Does it help your confidence knowing that your defense is always going to come up with that big stop and help get you guys on the field?
Yeah, absolutely. I always tell guys like Nick, Johnny, how to just get us that ball, and they do a great job and play so hard. So they just got to continue to keep getting better, just like us. And it's a good thing where we have mistakes to correct, and we just want to just keep building as a team.
You hear about the culture of excellence that they have here at IC. What was it like, or what's it like coming in and experiencing that firsthand to finish out your collegiate career?
Yeah, no, it's been awesome. I got here August 10th or whenever camp started, and the guys welcomed me with open arms, and Coach Swanstrom, Coach Terp, meeting with them before the season to figure out where I was going to play next. They were just nothing but great, and it's been a tremendous first 2 months here with the season, and obviously the success we've had. We just want to keep it going.
The Bombers improved to 5-0 on the season as they welcome in Liberty League rival Hobart at 1 p.m. next weekend. From Butterfield Stadium, I'm Casey Honigbaum with the Gridiron Report.
Thank you for that report, Casey. Coming up on the Gridiron Report, your players of the week, Alyssa's Liberty League update, and the 4th and goal debate. So stick around and make sure you follow us on social media for a behind-the-scenes look every week. You can see on the board right there. The Gridiron Report will be right back. Thanks for tuning in. You're watching the Gridiron Report. We just had Coach Swanstrom in studio. We know the Bombers stayed undefeated, but there were some huge conference games. Alyssa, what happened this weekend?
Thanks, Matthias. I'm Liberty League analyst Alyssa Spady. Week 2 has come and gone for Liberty League play. Let's see how the teams did. Starting off with Union at Rochester. Union came in on a mission to prove why they are the best in the league thus far. They dismantled Rochester, winning 47-19. After a quick pickup of 7 by Union on the opening drive, Rochester answered with a field goal and a touchdown, bringing them up early in the first, but it would be the last time U of R saw a lead as Union stuck their foot on the gas pedal and never stopped. Sophomore running back Ike Iracabor had a day with 84 yards and 11 attempts and 3 touchdowns. Union remains undefeated at 2-0 in conference. Up next, Hobart and RPI, the two powerhouse teams. But RPI did not seem like themselves as Hobart took that one 41-27. Hobart's defense has been steamrolling teams, and it seems like that's not going to stop anytime soon. They limited RPI to just 110 yards, 46 on the run game, and 64 in the air. And while quarterback George Marianopoulos had a game that earned him our Liberty League Offensive Player of the Week last week, it was a different story yesterday. Marianopoulos threw 2 interceptions and fumbled the ball. Hobart improves to 1-1 in conference and 5-1 overall. RPI moves to 1-1 in conference as well. And wrapping up Liberty League play yesterday was our own number 9 Ithaca Bombers against Buffalo State. Buff State has been searching for their first win, and they certainly did not get it yesterday. Ithaca sat in the driver's seat all game, winning 48-14. In just the first quarter, the Bombers scored 28 points and never looked back from there. IC outgained Buffalo State 483-358. They also were hot in the red zone, going 8 for 9. The Bombers move on to 2-0 in conference, while Buff State remains winless at 1-0. Looking ahead to next week and what Liberty League matchups we will have, Rochester and Buffalo State face off first. It will be an interesting game to watch as each side will be playing for the first win of the season. St. Lawrence coming off their bye week and Union will face off next. Union will have the pressure on them as the eyes of the league look to see if they can keep this unbeaten season alive against a tough defensive team in St. Lawrence. And wrapping up the night, my key game for next week, the Hobart Statesmen take on your Ithaca Bombers. The Bombers currently sit tied with Union unbeaten in both Liberty League play and overall. Hobart will be looking to take an early lead and use defensive pressure to keep wide receiver Will Gladney in check. We round up Liberty League talk with offensive and defensive players of the week. On the offensive side, he is number 1 in rushing and number 3 in scoring in the Liberty League. He was All Liberty League first team last year. He's sophomore running back Ike Irabor from Union. Last game versus Rochester, he had 84 yards on 11 attempts. That's 7.6 yards per carry. He also had 3 touchdowns on the day. Moving to the other side of the line, he was a nightmare for RPI's quarterback yesterday. Junior outside linebacker Emmett Ford is our defensive player of the week. Last week, he was All Liberty League honorable mention, but this year he's making sure his name and presence is known. He currently leads the Liberty League in tackles for a loss and sits at number 3 for sacks. And he continued that this week. He tied his season high with 12 tackles. He also recorded a fumble as well as a sack. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media pages to get all things Gridiron Report. Stay tuned. When we come back, Matthias Wildman and I sit down with this week's Ithaca Offensive and Defensive Players of the Week, Isaiah DeHady and Nick Garone. Don't go anywhere. The Gridiron Report will be right back.
Welcome back to the Gridiron Report, everyone, your one-stop shop for all things Bombers football. As we saw before, the Bombers rolled this weekend. Let's meet some of the players that helped them move to 5-0. Both of these guys making their Gridiron debuts tonight. He's a leading tackler in Saturday's game, and he's leading the team in tackles and interceptions through the first 5. He's one of the team's captains, and on game day wears the most eye black I have ever seen. It's Nick Garone. And then right next to him is someone who scored 2 touchdowns yesterday to make it 6 so far. He's the leading rusher for the Bombers, and he's running back Isaiah DeHady. Guys, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Isaiah, let's start with you. Between you, Kendall, and Dante Garcia, you have a very talented running group. Last year you called yourself the Stable. Do you have a name this year, or is it the same thing?
Same thing.
Same
so
thing?
far, yeah.
Okay, so between the 3 of you, you get a lot of touches. How do you stay fresh on the sidelines when there's another back in?
So during the sideline, usually just hit a couple squats before I go in. Anytime there's an opportunity to go in. But, you know, I got to keep my mind fresh as well. So usually it.
And Nick, what have you done now as a senior to help lead this defense to be as dangerous that has been thus far?
You know, we just try and do our 111th and, try and go 1-0 each week and stay focused and just follow our game plan. And, just Coach Turper, preaches every week, what we have to do, and that's our main goal is to go 1-0 each week.
So Isaiah, your first 3 seasons you averaged 3 yards a carry on the ground. Everyone knows you're a touchdown machine. Then this season, same machine, and now you're averaging 6.5 yards per carry. Has there been something different that you did in the offseason, or what has contributed to that huge jump?
Well, yeah, so the off-season took a big part of it. I was working out a lot more and focusing on a couple moves here and there. Those 2 years before averaging those 3 yards per carry, I was a little nicked up, but I feel like a lot better now. And that's pretty much it.
That works.
And Nick, you are now currently second in interceptions in the Liberty League. What have the coaches done, and what have you done personally to get yourself there?
It's tough to say. I mean, last year I had 1 interception, but just, going in every day at practice, trying to do my best. And working a lot more in pass coverage this year than I did last year. Bronson was more of a pass coverage guy last year. So just trying to, focus on that and get my technique a little better. I'm still a little sloppy, but we'll get there. But, got 3 so far, so hopefully I get a few more.
Isaiah, I know a lot of the guys on the team don't like looking at the record books if they're closing in. You had just got to 21 total touchdowns in your career. I don't know if you know that. That's a 3-way tie now for 8th all-time for Ithaca. Next up is someone you know really well, Tristan Brown, who you ran with a couple years ago. Okay. What would that mean to pass Brown in your senior season and just moving up on the record book?
I mean, that'll mean a lot, and I know Tristan himself. He will feel happy for me as well. I still keep contact with him, so he keeps me going throughout these games. But it's a good feeling to know that.
Is it just happy that he would feel if you broke his record? Or is that a question I shouldn't ask? All right, maybe.
I really don't know, man.
And Nick, looking to next week, you have Hobart. What specifically are you looking to do just to take away something that they have on the offensive side?
We just got to get aligned. They're going to try and beat us with their formation. We got to adjust properly. But same goal each week. You got to shut down the run and then make them pass the ball and then shut down the pass.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming on. That's just about going to do it for us on the Gridiron Report for the players of the week. Nick Garone and Isaiah DeHady leading the charge for their respective units. Again, thank you, gentlemen, for coming on. As always, follow us on social media for some great content, some behind-the-scenes look. And coming up, we're going to wrap up with the 4th and goal debate, so make sure you stick around. The Gridiron Report will be right back. Welcome back to the Gridiron Report. I'm joined by our analysts for today, Jackson Lawrence, Brendan Miller, and Quentin Pelzel, filling in for Alex Hessig. Gentlemen, let's get right to it. Ithaca has been passing the ball a lot. Is there persistence in the passing game going to come back to bite them? Jackson, to you.
Yeah, I don't think so. They showed a little bit in the last game. Isaiah DeHady had a great game. And I think that trio of receivers is just a little too strong for every other passing defense in the conference. I think that, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
It's definitely not broke, that's for sure. Brendan, what about you?
I completely agree with you, Jackson. The offensive passing game has been absolutely incredible for the Bombers this year. And, just because they can't run the ball or just because the weather is bad doesn't mean that that's going to come back to bite them. We saw the rain take an effect in this game. They still came out and threw the ball 5 times in the opening drive.
Well, Brendan, I think the interesting part, Quentin, right before we get to you, is that they haven't struggled to run the ball necessarily. It's just a pass-first offense. Quentin, what do you think?
Yeah, I was just going to say that too. They've been averaging over 100 yards rushing on the ground this year. So I wouldn't say they're not good at running the ball, but when you have a guy like Joe Germinario passing the ball, they're definitely going to be relying more on the passing. And I think once you get to these defenses that are better, like the Cortland and like Hobart next week, they're definitely going to be relying on the running game a lot more than what they have been in the past.
I think you need the running game, but at the same time, you can have receivers like Anderson and Vito sneak out for those short passes like we've seen a lot. They've got a lot of speed to get to the outside. So I think if a certain rushing game isn't exactly there, I think you can use that as a substitute.
And I think the thing is, for this Ithaca offense, they know their strengths. They know that they have solid wide receivers. They really got 3 guys that can catch the ball and get big yardage after catch in Vito, Gladney, and Anderson. And they know that their offensive line has been very, very good. Right now, they've allowed 6 sacks on the season. They're 4th in the Liberty League, but the other teams above them have allowed only 5. So they know their strengths, and they're playing to their strengths here early in the season.
And I think the offensive line, you got to know their strengths too. Their strength is on the passing side of the ball rather than the rushing. So I think that's where they're really focusing on.
But it's all about the game plan as well. If Coach Swanstrom sees something in the film from another team that he's playing, and he sees that the defense is playing heavily towards the pass, I think they're definitely going to be relying more on the run. I think it's all about hitting the opposing defense's weaknesses.
All right, so let's move forward to Hobart now next week. What's the most intriguing matchup? Because Hobart, a very good team coming in, probably the best team that Ithaca has played so far. Brendan, let's start with you.
We just talked about it. I think the most interesting part is going to be Germanario and that solid wide receiver core against the defensive backfield of Hobart. We've seen the Bombers come out and play very good defensive teams, but like St. John Fisher was the one that I was going to reference, because St. John Fisher right now tied for 2nd in the entire country in defensive backfield efficiency, but they're tied with Hobart. So Hobart, very similar defensively to St. John Fisher, and I think that's going to be very interesting to watch.
Quentin, what about you?
I think it's got to be that Ithaca O-line versus the Hobart pass rush, especially the front 7. We just talked about Emmett Ford. He's been terrific. He's been leading that Hobart defense. And Ithaca's offensive line, they're playing a lot better. They played really well last week. Ithaca got over 100 yards rushing. And that Hobart defense as well, they were playing very well against RPI, so that's going to be a fun matchup to watch.
And just 1 sack allowed by the offensive line through the last 2 weeks. Jackson, what about you?
Yeah, Brendan, I'm going to have to disagree. I think it comes from the running game. Hobart has a really good running game this season, and Ithaca is the top rushing defense in the Liberty League, so I think that's going to be something you really got to look at. But if you're Ithaca, the secondary, I think, might have a little trouble with this Hobart offense. They can pass the ball as well.
Well, when you want to talk about interesting, I think one of the interesting points is that in that game against Fisher that I referenced earlier, Germanario had a good game, threw for 380 yards and 4 touchdowns, but he also threw 2 interceptions. So that's going to be something that you have to watch when he faces a very vaunted defensive backfield for Hobart.
So we might not know how good Hobart really is, but they did win 41-27 over a previously ranked RPI. Are they Liberty League contenders? Quentin, start with you.
I think whenever you can beat an RPI team, let's listen to this for a second. RPI, they were the Liberty League champions last year, so whenever you can beat a team like RPI, I think you definitely have to be considered a contender.
Yeah, I think they're a contender, especially in this game, because you look at the way Jordan Everett, I know Buffalo State isn't the greatest team, but Jordan Everett was able to get 183 yards and 2 touchdowns in that game. So I think Hobart is more than capable to pass the ball in the Ithaca secondary. I think it's going to be a pretty close game.
You know, I don't think Hobart is a contender. I think they're a good team, but I don't think that they're good enough to compete with the top 2 teams in the Liberty League right now in Ithaca and Union, and that's really just because of the offense. They're only averaging 26 points per game, and right now the quarterback, Ryan Hoffman, only completing 46% of his passes. So I think they're good, but just not good enough.
But Brennan, it's not all about the quarterback as well. They have 1 loss, and that was to Union, a very good team. They're undefeated this year, so I think Hobart, when you have that 1 loss, especially at this point in the season, they definitely have to be considered a contender.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. That'll do it for this week on the Gridiron Report. Thank you to Coach Dan Swanstrom, Nick Garone, and Isaiah DeHady for all stopping by to talk Bombers football. Make sure you're tuning in next week, same time, same channel. We'll be breaking down everything from what is going to be an exciting matchup as the 9th-ranked Bombers take on the Hobart Statesmen. One last time, hop on your phones and show our social media pages some love, and for some great content. For everyone behind the camera, thanks for tuning in. This is the Gridiron Report. I'm Matthias Wallman. Good night, and roll Bombers.